Hello and welcome to part 2 of my capstone presentation. Again, my name is Danielle Berg, and in this video we will be covering the database and API. We're going to go ahead and get started with talking about the database. First off, the types of data stored in my database are represented over there in the image. So information on dishes, orders, restaurants, and users are all stored in the database. In terms of new features and design decisions I made, there weren't a ton of new features, but I did find when I originally went through this process and this project, I left everything as is and used the starter code. But when I went to go deploy my backend, it wouldn't deploy. I got conflicting errors, and I'd fix one, and it would cause another error, and I'd fix that and cause the original error. It was back and forth. So I ended up deciding to rebuild the backend code with using Strapi version 4 as well as newer packages in hopes that would aid me in deployment. I didn't exactly refactor the starter code. I kept most of it as is. I did have to update the API links to represent the newer version of Strapi. In terms of challenges, I think the biggest one in changing from Strapi version 3 to Strapi version 4 was that the data that was coming back was in a different format. And so I wasn't accessing the same information that I wanted in the same way as I had before. So I had to pretty much console logged and looked at some sites online to get a sense of how it was returning to me and how to better access the information I wanted. That about wraps up talking about databases, so we're going to move on to APIs. I used both RESTful and GraphQL APIs, mostly because that's what the starter code came with, and I didn't feel like changing it and didn't really have the time to explore how I might want to change it. I list a couple of the API endpoints here, but I also created a Google Doc that kind of lists the API endpoints, the various GET and POST requests. So I thought we could go navigate over there and just take a look at the documentation real quickly. So here's a more comprehensive list than was shown on the slide. It shows the various GET requests and the POST requests that I use in my app. And so this isn't obviously all options available, but they're the most common ones that might be used, as well as the ones that I happen to use. And so from the various GET requests, you can get information on users, plural, or a user, and that kind of continues on through the various categories. So restaurants or a restaurant, dishes versus a dish, orders versus a order. In terms of POST requests, you can verify that a user actually exists in the database. You can add a user, add an order, and all of these have their extra parameters. As we do have a little bit of time, I thought I'd hop over to Postman and just show a couple of the requests I made to the API endpoints here. So I started with basic GET ones. I did a GET request for the API dishes, and it lists all of the dishes and their descriptions and their price and all the information that exists in the database. You also have here, I got their list of restaurants, only 3 of them here. And then last GET request I made was to get a list of the orders placed so far when I've been testing my project. And lastly, I have a couple of POST requests. So the first one was to verify that this user actually exists and has already created an account. And I got bounced or replied with the information that actually does, yes, it does exist. This is the information stored. And I also created a new user, and I got the information returned to me for instance, the JWT token that authorizes me to sign it. And that wraps up this video. Thanks for listening. Bye.